Hey, this is Sha Sparks with Sparks of Hope. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my dear friend, Scott Ferguson.
Time to Shine Today podcast squad. It's Scott Ferguson. And if I got a super uber awesome treat for you today, I had a fantastic conversation with my really good friend, Sha Sparks from Sparks of Hope. She really has a fantastic program for helping people, and especially veterans, for transforming your trauma into treasure. Shay has a fantastic backstory, which she no holds barred, just let loose, which is fantastic. Wait till you hear how she went from being bullied to being a bully and then back and found a heart to really empower people. So sit back, relax, break out your notebook, because here is my friend, Sha Sparks. When we share our own lessons learned of overcoming obstacles, we ignite a tiny spark of hope, love, connection, and community in other people. And when we ignite that spark, the whole world lights up. That is from my very good friend, Sha Sparks. And I am blessed to have Sha on our podcast today here on Time to Shine, folks. She is an overcomer of abuse, addiction, depression, anger, low self-worth, being a bully, and being bullied. Sha Sparks has taken her own personal traumatic experiences and transformed her life into a treasure. As a speaker, coach, author, and podcast host, which rocks, by the way, you got to listen to her podcast, she empowers other trauma survivors to invest in themselves by peeling away the layers of the onion that we are and heal. Then she guides them to break through fear by transforming their trauma into treasure in order to find their true purpose. And an icing on the cake, folks, Sha loves to help veterans. And everybody that's familiar with me and my podcast knows that I had my time over in Iraq and Afghanistan, and anybody that helps veterans is a very, very good friend of mine. So without further ado, Sha, I would love you to introduce yourself to the Time to Shine squad. But first, tell us your favorite color and why.
Well, my favorite color is green.
Okay.
And why is because it is refreshing and rejuvenating and yet calming and tranquil all at the same time.
It's all about growth, right?
Yes.
I love that.
Really.
Listen to her voice, people.
And it's go. Green is go, right?
Yeah, and you can hear the passion come through in her voice. So let's get to the origins here, Sha. Let's talk about being a bully and being bullied. And let's start there, and we're going to work our way up into how you have as the Chief Excitement Officer at Sparks of Hope there. Okay. I love your name because it's like Trump. It's like Trump's a huge name. It's like, boom, Sparks. I mean, come on. Even in your little tagline in there, ignite that spark. I'm going to shut up and let you, please.
No, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. And while you're reading that quote, I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. And I went, oh my gosh, that's mine. And I just closed my eyes and literally teared up for a second. It's beautiful to hear someone else say it with such passion that I have with it.
It caught me. It moved me.
Thank you. So yeah, I was a bully growing up because I was bullied and hurt people. Mm-hmm. And I became empowered. So empowered people empower people. So I had, I don't even know where to begin. As a young kid, really kind of, was picked on. I had 2 older brothers and they picked on me. And then, it led into other people picking on me. And then by the time I was in middle school, junior high age, I became that bully. I started sitting on the bus with kids that were younger than me just to make them cry. I literally don't recall actually physically hurting them.
Sure.
Or even maybe I would put them down because that's what we were. We're kids, right? Mm-hmm. But I just remember getting some sort of gratification out of just sitting next to them in the bus seat and them crying, which is so crazy to think about. Now, as a coach, when people cry, it's a completely different story. It's because they're growing and learning and learning to love themselves. Right. So yeah, it's a trauma to treasure story. That's for sure.
So you got off the bus, you started moving your way through life and whatnot. What did you do first before you kind of transform into ShaSparks.com, igniter?
Thank you. So I am a cosmetologist. I have a
Oh,
salon. I've been a
okay.
hairstylist for a very long time and was technically a coach behind the chair.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And
exactly. All of them are. I'm a realtor by trade, so I'm
hmm
like that marriage counselor, the
hmm
confidant, and everything else. And yeah, I'll
hmm
tell you what, I tell my barber stuff that I wouldn't probably tell anybody else. So you're already there.
Exactly,
Absolutely there.
exactly. And I am blessed to have my own suite where everybody has their own suite. So I close that door, and that just somehow gives people permission to tell me everything that I don't really want to know.
Right.
And I mean, that's okay. I'm blessed that they tell me that. I'm
Sure.
glad that they trust me. And I had been in an abusive relationship for 12 years.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. Mhm.
Thank you. And that actually, that being able to close that door gave me the confidence to be vulnerable with my clients, to be able to say that out loud because I wasn't willing to say that out loud.
Right.
And right. And so then when I started to immediately, I went into Christian counseling, immediately started reading books and getting coaching and started to heal. And I call it peel away the layers of the onion that we are.
Yeah.
And I started to heal layer by layer and would share with my clients, like, hey, guess what I learned about myself this week? And they're like, oh my gosh, how did you learn that? So I would explain that to them. And then they would leave, go out into their life, and somehow apply what I just told them, what I did. And then
Wow.
they would come back for their next appointment and like, well, listen to what I did, Shay, because of what you said to me.
Right.
And I went, wait a minute. So if hurt people, and now
Empowered people, right?
yeah, so now that I'm like empowered, am I empowering other people?
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. That, that, that's crazy. That's a huge aha moment then.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
you're sitting there, you don't even know you're doing it. And basically what you're doing is because you're getting Christian counseling and coaching and stuff like that, you were kind of regurgitating what you learned, right,
Absolutely.
to other people. And
Abs-
like you said, empowered people empower people. That's fantastic because people say, Fergie, you sound like, this motivational speaker. I'm like, dude, I just listen to people and regurgitate what they say because it helps in my life. And that's great and humble of you to admit that, because everyone wants to be so original. You are an original, Shay. I see it all over all your social, and I see it in your beautiful face here. But you are, an original, and you're taking their spin and empowering people. That's fantastic. So, what do you think makes a great coach?
that's such a great question. Someone who is willing to be vulnerable,
Love it.
and willing to be just loving and open and transparent. We all go through circumstances, we all have experiences. And when, as a good coach, is to really ask a lot of questions about the client and not really share a whole lot about us.
Mm-hmm.
I've had clients that I've worked with for a year and they're like, so what's going on with you? What do you do? Like we only talk about me. And I'm like, that's
Right.
because that's what you pay me for, is to
Sure.
talk about me, talk about you. Not, this isn't about me. So I think it's just really a good coach is, all of those things, and to have the ability to separate yourself and their preconceived notions of what this person should do and just really focus on what it is that they need.
So I'm hearing you're doing a lot of the listening. You're probably paraphrasing back to them what you've heard to make them make sure that they know that you've understood. That's why they were coming back to you, I feel, that to find out what's going on in Shay's life. But give us a little bit of the secret sauce there at Sparks of Hope that you use to help find someone's blind spot. Because
Mm.
they're not always. Another question I ask a lot is there any question that you wish people would ask you but they don't? You know what I'm saying? Because you're having to dig. But which maybe one of your secret sauce techniques that you can pass on to our Time to Shine squad listeners that help people find their own blind spots?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, because I am a certified fearless living coach, I help people find where their fear is. So that might sound like, oh, well, I'm afraid of snakes or I'm afraid of flying. And the truth is that it's also, it shows up in emotional fear. So are you procrastinating? Are you the first one willing to tell someone that you love them? Are you not being fully engaged in saying what you mean and mean what you say when you're having that conversation with, maybe it's your boss or your coworker or your son or your spouse, your parent?
Sure.
right? So there's so many ways that fear shows up. Overthinking is one, overanalyzing, constantly having that negative self-talk. That's a huge fear response. And so I help people see that that's how fear shows up for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of work it the other way where we go into freedom, right? And
Okay.
some hope.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
we help them find ways to step out of that when they're triggered, when they're going through something and they start that inner negative self-talk.
Okay.
And maybe they do some breathing exercises, or maybe they go outside, maybe they
Take a
do,
sabbatical, if you will.
yeah.
You
And
know, even if it's a minute.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Even if it's a minute, they go into the restroom, they take deep breaths, and then they move
Sure.
back, they come back. So it's just getting out of that mindset of fear.
Sure. Okay. So tell us about a failure that you encountered since you've been coaching. Tell us something where you've had to fail forward and push through. Give us a story. Tell us a story.
Fail forward. So I actually, it's funny you say this. So I actually removed the word failure and fail from my vocabulary
Yay.
and called it learning opportunity.
Mm,
And
go.
and growth opportunity, right? And so that's what go means to me, GO, growth opportunity. And
Go with
so
that. Love that. Okay. I'm writing it down. People stealing it from her. Okay, go ahead.
please do. And anybody who's listening, please, use it. Because
Yeah.
here's really what it is. And so let's see, gosh, this is such a question. So I started probably, 12 years ago with a dream, right? I had a dream 3 nights in a row, and on the third, and I woke up the same time every night. And by the third night, I wrote it down. And I'm not going to go into details of what the whole dream is, but the gist of it is that it was an idea of having a software company. Okay.
Oh.
And so I started talking to people that do crowdfunding, like Kickstarter, right? And then that led me to the next opportunity, which was speaking and pitching my idea at Startup Weekend.
Oh.
Which
Okay.
led me to the next opportunity, which led me to the next, to the next, to the next, to where I am now. And the reason I'm telling you all that is because that's what failure is when you look at it as a learning opportunity,
Sure.
is to just go, okay, what can I learn here, and apply it and pivot
Pivot. Pivot's
and
a good
apply
word,
it to,
right?
and apply it to the next thing. And
Love it.
that's what I think where people quote unquote fail is when they're not willing to pivot.
Love it. I mean, sometimes you have to own your no, or even a situation, pivot, like you just said, and then there's another opportunity that's there. A really good friend of mine, Leah Woodford, she said, get your asking gear. So ask people, be bold enough to ask people and start listening. That's what you're doing. You're so perceptive. I can see, even when you said you're in an audience and someone was bringing up stuff to you about veterans, even in our conversation before, where you were just like, oh crap, that could work, right? So you're always open, and that's a huge trait. Tell me something, because you went through a lot of, I'm going to use it, shit. You went through a lot of shit in your younger years.
Yeah.
What would you do if we got a little Michael J. Fox going on in DeLorean and Back to the Future, and you could go back and talk to that 18-year-old Shay? What would you tell her to help her level up through it? With your experience now of transforming lives, you're a mover, a shaker, you're crazy successful at this. What would you tell her?
Well, that's interesting because that's the perfect age, because that's literally I moved from small town on a farm in Iowa to the middle of Kansas City. So great age that you picked. I would tell her that to get help, to be okay with asking for help.
Love it.
Because that was the one thing that I didn't want to admit, that I had so many things going on. My parents had just gotten a divorce when I was a senior in high school. I had just dropped out of college for computer science at 18 and had moved in with some friends, and we hung around questionable people that may or may not have been involved with illegal substances, may or may not,
may or may not, right?
May or may not. And, and I was like, I'm fine. And the truth was, I wasn't fine. In fact, I don't think I had been fine my whole life, but I didn't know that. Because I was just being a mirror of what my parents were doing, because they were saying the same
Sure.
thing, that they were fine.
Right.
And
It's in our subconscious. It's built in, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's
I would have gotten help. That's what I would have done.
good. That's awesome. And like we said, what Leah has told me, and I'm passing on to you, is get your asking gear. Ask for the help. Be bold enough to do that. That's what I would tell my 18-year-old self, because I would always kind of sit there and I'll do it myself. And I think I would have gotten farther faster if I would have
Yeah,
asked.
agreed.
And okay, so how can I ask this one? What is the big thing? You've done so much. You're still a relatively young woman, okay? So, but what is the big thing you want to accomplish in life? Big,
Ooh.
capital BIG.
Well, so when I close my eyes and the first thing that pops up is to be able to travel around to military bases and speak on how to break through fear and transform their trauma into treasure and find their purpose
That's
outside
beautiful.
of the military, of what's next for them. And just be able to, like Princess Diana went to Africa and all the little kids would huddle around her and hug
Yeah,
her. I want to do that and have all the veterans be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for being such an inspiration to us
sure.
in this time,"
Right.
because it's a completely different reality than what we're all living in
I love that.
non-military.
I
So
love that, Shane. Sure, you just don't have a thing for men in uniform. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
actually, no, I
But no,
don't. So that's really funny.
that's moving to me, though, that you would do that for veterans that you never really served, but you're such a go-giver, and that's fantastic.
Well, I will say, I want to interject there. My dad served,
Okay.
however, not by choice.
Okay. It was a
So
draft.
he was drafted
Okay.
to Korea before the Vietnam War.
Wow.
And I think, I got it, like I got the whole, like part of the story 6 months
Sure.
before he passed away.
Hmm.
But something he said that really made me go, oh my gosh, you handed that down to each one of us kids. And that's why I had made the decisions I made in life. He said, I didn't have a choice. And I went, wow, I think
Yeah.
that's why I was in the relationship I was in, because I kept thinking, well, I made my bed, I had to lie in it. I
Right.
didn't have a choice. And the truth is, we all have a choice.
I'll have it.
Yeah.
Like you just said about 5 minutes ago, pivot. And
Yeah.
no matter what the consequences may be, I think a lot of times with intuition, you're pivoting towards something better, and like people are just afraid to. And people like you help them break through that trauma, which is fantastic. So let's
Mhm.
take your cell phone out of the equation. What are 3 things Sha Sparks cannot live without?
My faith in
Love it.
God, connection with people, period. This being in the space and time that we're in right now, with being able to solitude,
There you
not
go.
self isolate.
All right. All right.
I am noticing how I am on point to connect and have these Zoom calls multiple times a day.
Right.
And also now, because I have been solituding literally by myself, human touch.
Got it.
That has really been missing in the last few weeks. And so hopefully this will end soon enough that I
Right.
can be the person on the corner with the free hugs sign.
That's fantastic. That's so candid. That's beautiful. So faith, connection, human touch. That's a total go-giver. So what is Shay's definition of a life well lived?
Hmm. When I was 19, it just was a huge revelation to me that I am here to make a difference in other people's lives.
Wow. Okay. That
And
was
that's
quick
it.
and that was easy. That's beautiful. You're convicted to that. That's fantastic. Okay, we're going to move into our level up lightning round. Okay. 5 or 6 questions. We're going to make them fast and quick. You and I could talk for 15, 20 minutes and every one of them, but my producer will kill me. But no, let's real quick, whatever comes atop your head, and we'll fire through these, about 5 or 6 questions. You ready?
Yep.
All right. What's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Hmm. Jump first, ask questions later.
It's, share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Journaling every morning.
Love that. Other than your website, at shasparks.com. In my website, timetoshinetoday.com. Shameless plug there. What's another website you like to go to level up?
Addicted to Success.
Love that. Yes. Beautiful. Okay. Other than the great book, the Bible. Okay. I'm a man of faith as well. Recommend a book, not one you're reading now that you're like all high and mighty on, but recommend a go-to book that if someone's in the doldrums, you're handing it to them.
Oh gosh.
Or just has inspired you and just like, boom.
Well, the one that's coming to mind is Steal Like an Artist by Austin McLeon.
Oh, okay, I'll look that up.
And
okay.
And I'll just tell you this little thing that he said.
Sure,
he says, write the book that you yourself would want to read.
Right.
And so that's what I did.
Love that. Okay, your favorite charity or organization, I think I know the answer to this. Your favorite charity or organization you like to donate your time or money to? Or both?
Salvation Army.
Beautiful. Okay, last question. It's a toughie. What's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Well, I'm going to have to say the 90s.
Okay, love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say the 90s.
Beautiful. They had great music in the 90s. Okay, so leave the Time to Shine Today squad with a knowledge nugget that you want us to take with us.
Whenever you get the word no, just remember, just like go is growth opportunity, no means new opportunity.
Oh my gosh, this is so, the knowledge nuggets you are just dropping on us. This is fantastic. Shay, how can we find you?
You can find me at my website, shasparks.com. You can find all my social media links on there, as well as how to listen to my podcast.
Okay.
And to buy my books, actually. You can get that on there as well.
Beautiful. We'll have everything in the show notes down below, folks. This fantastic interview. Squad, this is like, I've been sitting down here with my good friend Sha Sparks. She dropped some serious knowledge nuggets on us that empower people, be vulnerable and loving. Go, the acronym is go with opportunity. And no is new opportunity, which is fantastic. We're always talking here on Time to Shine Today about leveling up our health, leveling up our wealth, staying humble, yet staying hungry. And Shay, you are a rock star. You fit right in here, so you can't leave us. So I really super appreciate your time. And for rescheduling, by the way, folks, she totally rescheduled, which is fantastic. So thank you so much, Shay.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.